Hello everyone. Welcome to the second part to a double episode from TeruShouEnnoTana storyline. Last time we've met Daisho's ex, finally, in prison. And this time we are going to take a look at what Tanaka and Daisho are on about. So, warning for this one, we are going into details. Not necessarily graphic details, but I still feel obliged to give a warning for it. Depends on how much imagination you have, I suppose. So bear that in mind. And let's get into it, shall we? As always, special thanks to my lovely patrons and all of you who still watch my videos. Don't forget to subscribe to keep up with the uploads. And yeah, let's go. I hope you will enjoy. The house was silent when Tanaka arrived from his shift. Too silent for his liking. Anybody home? He took note of the two missing pairs of shoes in the hallway and continued into the living room, feeling eerily on edge when no one answered his call. The guru? I hope he's not sleeping. He circled a few first rooms, looking for his boyfriend everywhere, including the garden, but without success. Panic already started to settle in his chest, urging his legs to move faster in a twisted mirror of his surge back when Daisho suffered with the horrible nightmares. Just like back then, in the light of the recent attack. Then he breathed a sigh of relief when he spotted the familiar figure through the open door of his room. He gently knocked on the doorframe to not startle him and entered. Suguru. Daisho still flinched, but also calmed down rather quickly, giving Tanaka a weak smile. Oh, hey. Sorry, I didn't hear you at all. Figured. I was worried we got lost. Yuji and Chika are around somewhere? They left about half an hour ago. They didn't say where though, just that they have a meeting with someone. Tanaka nodded, trying his hardest to not let his thoughts mirror on his face to not scare Daisho, since the fury wasn't meant for him. So they really went without me. No, maybe it's better that way. I would probably kill him on the spot. Ryu? No, sorry, I was thinking. He smiled and crossed the distance between them to kiss Daisho's temple, but then frowned when he felt the little trembles running through his skin. Before he could ask, however, he noticed the file in Daisho's hands, even the little text he could see, leaving no room for doubt about what it was. A wide summary of all the hell he went through, most definitely a remnant of the court proceeding almost 4 years ago. You still have it? Letting out a shaky sigh, Daisho closed the file and nodded, his hands visibly trembling too. Yes. At first I wanted to keep it so it didn't get into wrong hands, but now I just can't bring myself to throw it away. The silence that followed stretched, while Tanaka fought an inner battle to not just grab Daisho and hug him out of nowhere, most definitely frightening him in his current weakened state. And even worse, he had to hold back with all his willpower to not reach for the file itself. However, it seemed like Daisho knew exactly what he was thinking about, looking at him with a shadow of betrayal in his eyes. You want to see, don't you? You're curious. Startled that his intentions could be understood wrong, Tanaka squeezed his hand, forgetting about the file for a moment. It's not curiosity, I swear. He sighed, carefully moving a strand of hair behind Daisho's ear before he nested his palm against his cheek. I was just thinking that maybe if I saw what he did to you, I could be more careful about what might hurt you without forcing you to talk about it again. But I won't look if you don't allow me to, I promise. He wasn't surprised by Daisho's reaction. There were a lot of people willing to do anything to get the juicy details without any regard for the victims, and Daisho's case surely wasn't an exception. And the more it hurt seeing him so defeated now, as he silently contemplated his next steps. Then Daisho handed him the file and without a word settled on the bed, fidgeting nervously with his fingers while his eyes stayed buried into the floor. Tanaka followed suit, sticking close to Daisho's side in case he needed support, the papers heavy in his hands. Are you sure it's okay for me to see? Daisho paused for a beat, but then nodded and hugged Tanaka's arm, hiding his face in his shoulder. I trust you. Tanaka's heart broke a little then and there. I trust you that you won't find some twisted pleasure in what you'll see was the unsaid meaning in Daisho's words. One that made Tanaka hesitate before kissing the top of his boyfriend's head and opening the file. The first few pages were a general summary of the situation leading up to the kidnapping, vaguely describing the abuse they already knew to a certain extent. It was still strange to read it described so coldly and impersonally, urging him to skip over the parts for now. That is, until he froze when the medical reports and photos from after the kidnapping appeared. His blood ran cold as he slowly took in the extent of injuries on Daisho's skin, recognizing many of the cuts that now turned into scars, the dark bruises blooming on his pale skin and the fright in his eyes tightening his throat. He knew it was bad from seeing the scars, but seeing it all almost fresh, before the body had time to somewhat heal, was horrifying. The grip on his arm tightened, the soft whimper escaping Daisho's mouth breaking his heart. He gently patted Daisho's hand. Should I stop? You can tell me if you don't want me to see more, I understand. No, it's fine. It's gone. They both knew that was as far from the truth as it could get. Still, Tanaka went back to the file, his eyes now drawn to the circular marks all over Daisho's shoulders and thighs, looking almost like a mix of a bruise and a set of small, badly healed cuts. His heart sank with dread. Those are from teeth, aren't they? Daisho shivered, averting his gaze. He called those love marks. He let out a sour, shaky chuckle. That was the only time he said the word love in relation to me. Sick fucker. But the discovery wasn't the only thing twisting his stomach. Are we hurting you when we call you that? Love, I mean. Just imagining they were using a pet name with an association like this, potentially bringing the trauma up all the time without knowing, made his skin crawl. But to his relief, Daisho's face relaxed a bit. No, not at all. It actually helps. You know, creating a much better association. And it's reassuring. A lot. Darling is worse. Alright, noted. Hesitant to continue, He took a moment to pull Daisho closer to his side into a sort of half hug that left him enough space to pull away if he wanted. The way Daisho clung to him, telling him he needed all the support he could get. And so he reached into his bag and handed him a small package with chocolate pieces he picked up on the way home. The little grateful smile Daisho gave him, melting off some of the ice settled around his heart. Steeling his mind for all the possible horrors that could come next, he kissed Daisho's forehead before he continued on. Most of the next pictures were of the deeper cuts on Daisho's sides and chest, a detail of his wrists covered in bruised handprints and burned by what he imagined was some thin rope, and more bites which he skipped over, not having the stomach to see them again. The images it planted into his mind were horrible, and for the first time in his life he was glad his imagination wasn't as vivid as to show him what happened in live detail. Then his stomach actually rolled when another photo came up, one of the rare headshots showing Daisho's neck. His whole throat was black with bruises, the imprints of fingers and scratch marks still very clear on the fair skin. And Tanaka was sure he spotted the shape of a belt buckle too. It made him sick. No wonder you hate anyone touching your throat. How much did the bastard choke you to make it look like this? It looks worse than I remember. He shivered and hid deeper into Tanaka's side, looking fragile like a kid terrified of a monster under their bed. Except his monster was very real, creating real scars on body and soul alike. Tearing of muscles and ligaments, signs of severe malnutrition and dehydration, scarring of lung tissue due to repeated drowning. Drowning. Daisho sniffed softly, and only now did Tanaka notice the tears hanging on his lashes. Once every few days, he took me to a bathtub. Said I have to be clean for him. It was cold, like ice cold. The first time, I wanted to take time to get used to it, but he said he didn't have time for that. The rest of the sentence turned into a choked sob. Tanaka hugged him tighter, already cursing himself for asking to see the file. Sure, it was going to be helpful in the long run, but at what cost? You don't have to talk about it. I thought he won't let me up again. He just grinned at me through the water and didn't let up. Is that why you wanted to have a shower in our bathroom when you moved here? Yes. I know you would never do that, but I just... It's scary. Unable to continue any further, Tanaka closed the file and pulled Daisho into a proper hug, battling his own tears when Daisho crumbled into his arms, crying his eyes and heart out. Once again, he was left in awe of how strong Daisho was, both mentally and physically, only thanking gods he really didn't go to the prison too. He was furious before already, but now, after seeing and reading all of this. And there was still a good chunk of documents he hadn't had the strength to see right now. It's okay now. He won't hurt you again, I promise. I remember one time after I couldn't move, just listened as he dressed up. I wondered if he ever loved me, even for a minute. Because if he did, he wouldn't do that, right? No, that's not something you do to someone you love. Another broken sob escaped Daisho's mouth, desperate and pained. He laughed when I asked. Told me not to be naive. He just wanted a toy to play with. Nothing more. Tanaka really wanted to scream now. Perhaps stare his way into the prison to snap that fucker's neck like a twig. But Daisho needed him more right now. He needed him calm. And so he gently wiped the tears from his cheeks and pulled him under his chin, shaking himself with suppressed emotions, but holding Daisho firmly until his cries turned into soft hiccups. He then reluctantly pulled away a bit, just to take Daisho's hands in his, gently massaging his palms. I'm so sorry for bringing it up. Do you want to tell Chika and Juji? At some point, yeah. Just, I don't know if I can right now. Do you want my help with it? Maybe. Would you when the time comes? Of course. I'm always here to help, no matter what. Just say a word. Thank you. Moved, Tanaka kissed his palm, squeezing his hand a bit tighter. The gentle, grateful smile Daisho gave him making his heart flutter. Then, however, it came to a halt for a beat when his eyes stopped at a long, thin, and very pale scar running along Daisho's entire forearm, which he had never noticed before. Probably thanks to its color and the fact Daisho tended to hide his forearms. On a closer inspection, he found a similar one on his other arm as well, and a bad feeling settled in his chest. When did he do these? Daisho froze, pride crossing his face before he turned his arms in a way that hid the scars again. Those aren't from him. He looked terrified, almost guilty too when he said that. And then the realization hit Tanaka with full force. Oh no. With his throat closed and not knowing what to say anyway, he carefully took hold of Daisho's hands again and tugged him back into a hug, feeling him trembling like a leaf. I'm sorry. You have nothing to apologize for. Just the fact that you went through all that and still have the capacity to trust us enough to let us love you is incredible. You're stronger than anyone I know. Let's just try not to let them appear again, okay? Daisho nodded and then slumped against his chest. Okay. They sat locked in the embrace for a long while until even the last of Daisho's tears dried and he stopped shaking. Only then Tanaka let go, cradling his face in his palms while trying to think of something supportive to say. But judging by how Daisho leaned into the touch, he didn't have to say anything. He just had to stay by Daisho's side and offer his shoulder or hug when it was needed. It didn't take long before the main door opened. Both Terushima and Enoshita made a beeline to Daisho and hugged him, their faces letting Tanaka know how approximately the prison visit went. And so they stayed at home that evening, all snuggled by the TV with snacks and some takeout, perhaps instinctively surrounding Daisho with all the love they had for him, talking about anything and everything except for the past. There was enough of that for one day. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. So now that we finally delved a bit more into Daisho's past, I hope some of his previous behavior is a bit clearer, or at least you understand why he acts the way he does. Obviously, it's not all. I will come back to it in the future. I still have some scripts prepared for it. Depends on how the storyline is going to move forward. Also, since this is done, I will soon put out the most hated character on the channel video, so keep an eye out on the community tab and don't forget to vote. If you have any requests or ideas, the request form is linked in the video description. See you next time.